By the end of this video, you're going to have no problem at all with compositions of functions. And in about 30 seconds, here's how this video is going to get you there. So we're going to start off with this first example where we're given f of x, we're given g of x, and we're asked to find f of g of x. And of course, we'll go over what all this gross notation actually means. After we do that problem, we're going to do the same example, but we're going to do g of f of x instead. And then we'll move on to a whole new problem where instead of trying to find f of g of x, now here we're trying to find f of g of 1. So we'll talk about what changes there, and then we'll end off with a problem trying to find g of f of -3. And after we go through all that, I'm going to give you a problem to try and answer in the comments, and by that point, it should honestly be breezy. And if you're looking for the notes for this video, and I don't just mean any notes here, I'm talking about the printable notes for this video. I'm going to have that linked right in the description. Also in the description, I have an extra video where you and I will go through and solve 10 more of these compositions of functions problems, but I'll talk more about that at the end of the video. So starting off with this first problem here, we're given f of x, we're given g of x, and this problem is asking us to find f of g of x. And that's what that notation actually means. When we write this gross thing, with a open circle and all that, what that means is f of g of x. And this is a form we can actually go and do something with. Here you see that g of x there, that's inside the f function, where usually we would just see an x in there. So that's what it means when you have an open circle in between f and g like that. But if you had a closed circle, I do want to talk about this real quick. This would be f times g. And so you would end up doing your function f, 2x minus 1, times your function g, which is x squared plus 2. So that's what it would mean if you had a closed circle, but again, here we have an open circle. That means we're doing a composition of functions. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find that f of g of x. And the big difference here is this g of x, like I mentioned. So what is g of x? Well, g of x is x squared plus 2. So what we can do is we can change this g of x into an x squared plus 2. And now we're all ready to go and plug in our f function. You can see here that this x squared plus 2 is replacing x. And so everywhere in this function where we see an x, we're going to replace it with an x squared plus 2. So instead of being 2 times x minus 1, it's going to be 2 times x squared plus 2 minus 1. And now all we have to do is a little bit of simplification. So we're going to multiply that 2 through. 2 times x squared, that is 2x squared. And then we have 2 times 2, that's a positive 4. And then we have that minus 1 on the end. We don't want to forget about that. So what we're going to end up with here is 2x squared plus 3. And right there, that is our f of g of x. Moving on now to problem 2. Now what we're trying to find is g of f of x. So it's those functions switched now. We want to find g of, and on the inside of g is that f of x. So how do we go and do that? Well, remember, before we had an x on the inside of that g. Now we have a f of x. Well, what is f of x? F of x is 2x minus 1. So we're going to plug that in. And now if we compare this to g of x right here, you can see that the 2x minus 1 is replacing the x. So everywhere in this g equation that we see an x, we are going to replace it with a 2x minus 1. So instead of having an x squared, we're going to have a 2x minus 1 squared. And then of course we have that plus 2 there as well. And now we can actually go and simplify this and we'll have another answer. So 2x minus 1 squared, that means 2x minus 1 times 2x minus 1. And then we can't forget about that plus 2. So now we can go and multiply these through. Just a little bit of foiling. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times negative 1 is negative 2x. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. And negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. And again, make sure you don't forget about that plus 2. So now that we have all this, we can combine like terms and we'll have our answer. We don't have any other x squared pieces other than that 4x squared, so we're just going to leave that 4x squared there. And then we have negative 2x minus 2x. That's going to give us a negative 4x. And we have 1 plus 2 that's going to be a plus 3. And right there, that is our answer for problem 2. Now moving on to problem 3, you can see that instead of trying to find f of g of x, this time we're trying to find f of g of 1. And how you're going to write that is with parentheses right here, so f of g of 1. And here you can see that that g of 1 is what's inside f. And that's going to be the first thing that we need to find in order to actually figure out what this thing is equal to. So let's go and do that. Let's find g of 1 to start off with. And you can see that in g of 1, we have a 1 plugged in for x. So that's what we're going to be doing on the right-hand side of g. Instead of 3 minus 5x, we're going to have 3 minus 5 times 1. And 5 times 1, that's just 5. So this is 3 minus 5, which is negative 2. So you can see that g of 1 is equal to negative 2. And that's the substitution that we're going to make right here. So you can see I plugged in that g of 1 was negative 2. And that gives us something that we can plug in to our f function. Here you can see the negative 2 is replacing x, so we're going to substitute a negative 2 everywhere we see an x in the f equation. So instead of x squared, we have negative 2 squared. Instead of 2 times x, we have 2 times negative 2. And then we also have that minus 3 on the end. Continuing on here, this is negative 2 squared, that's positive 4. Then we have 2 times negative 2, that's negative 4. And we can't forget that negative 3 at the end. 4 minus 4 is 0, minus 3 is negative 3. And that's going to be our answer for problem 3. Now, moving on to problem 4, instead of finding f of g, now we're finding g of f, and the numbers change too. It's going to be negative 3 this time. So let's write this out, g of f of negative 3. And now this time, that f of negative 3 is inside g. So before we can find out what this guy equals, we have to find out what f of negative 3 is equal to. So here we're going to plug in a negative 3 for x in the f equation. So instead of x squared, it's going to be a negative 3 squared. Instead of 2x, it's going to be 2 times negative 3. And then we have a minus 3 on the end. And we can quickly simplify that. Negative 3 squared is positive 9. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And then we have a minus 3 there. And what that gives us is 9 minus 6 minus 3, which is 0. So what we can do is down here, since we just found out that f of negative 3 was equal to 0, we substitute that in. We substitute in 0 for f of negative 3. And we know how to find g of 0. That's just going to be plugging 0 in for x in the g equation. So the g equation is 3 minus 5x. We're going to have a 3 minus 5 times 0. And 5 times 0, that's 0. So we're just going to end up with a 3 here. And that's going to be our answer for problem 4. So hopefully that clears up composition of functions for you. And if you're feeling pretty good with that, then here is a problem for you to try and answer in the comments. In this problem, I give you what f of x is, I give you what g of x is, and then I'm asking you to find f of g of negative 1. So give that problem a try. Let me know what your answer is in the comments. And if you have any questions on anything we talked about in this video, again, let me know in the comments and I'll try to get back to you when I can. Now remember, I do have that extra video where you and I will go through and solve 10 more of these composition of functions problems. And so if you're looking for more practice there, especially if you have a quiz or a test coming up on this kind of stuff, then I highly recommend you check out that video in the description down below. And while you're there, you might as well snag the notes for this video as well. Lastly, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. I'm going to be coming out with plenty more of these videos to help you guys out. And so if you're subscribed, you can stay up to date with all the new videos that I'm posting. But yeah, anyways guys, that's going to do it for this video, and I'll see you soon.